Welcome to our channel, Weekend Class channel, and today we will discuss the last part of our first chapter of economics for class 10th, that is development. Now today we will start with income and other criterias. So till now we have seen that there are many individual aspirations and goals also. Besides that income, people have other parameters in their mind. These parameters can be security, self-respect, which is a very important thing, equality or equal treatment, and freedom, that is very important, and they keep it in mind. Similarly, when we think of a region or a nation, other things may be taken in consideration. Now, what are these things? First of all, let us make a comparison between three states to make it very clear. Now, these three states of India are Maharashtra, Kerala and Bihar. Now, we can as such clearly see that per capita income in Maharashtra is the highest, that is 1,17,091 rupees per annum according to 2013-14 data. Kerala comes behind with 1,03,830 rupees per annum. Bihar is a distant third with 31,199 rupees per annum. So we can see that as far as per capita income is considered, Maharashtra is the leader. But now we shall consider some other parameters. So if only per capita income was the criteria, Maharashtra would have been the most developed state and Bihar the least developed one. But since I said that there are other parameters which come into consideration, now we see the comparison here. The comparison is provided in the following table where Maharashtra, Kerala and Bihar are compared. Now first of all we see Kerala. In Kerala, the infant mortality ratio per 1000 live birth as recorded in 2013, that was the year 2013, is 12. Now first of all I will define for you what is infant mortality ratio. It indicates the number of children who die before the age of 1 year. Means out of 1000 children which are born in a year, 12 children die before attaining the age of 1 year. That's the data in Kerala. But when we compare Maharashtra with it, it is just a double. Means 24 children die out of 1000 live births in Maharashtra. So we see that Maharashtra lags behind Kerala, and the situation is Bihar in is very bad. That is 42 children die per 1000 live births. Now the second is literacy rate percentage. That is according to the census of 2011. The 2011 census reports that the literacy rate of Maharashtra is 82 and Kerala continues to top with 94 and Bihar is a distant third with 62%. Literacy rate. What does literacy rate means? The definition of literacy rate is literally that the proportion of population which is literate and it must be above 7 years of above. So more than 7 years population which is literate is considered to be literate population. When it is considered as a percentage divided by 100, then it is literacy rate. So in this parameter also we can see that Kerala is the leader. The third parameter we consider is net attendance rate. Means the person who is attaining the secondary stage of education, which means after 14 to 15 years. Like one is primary education, class 8th, now secondary stage of education, means till 12th. So net attendance ratio is the total number of children of age group 14 and 15 years attending school as a percentage of total number of children in the same age group. In this parameter also we can see that Kerala is the leader, is the clear leader with 78%. Maharashtra lags behind with 64% and Bihar lagging behind with 35%. So it is performing poorly in all the three parameters, 42, 62 and 35. So we can easily say that Bihar is the poorest of the all state, most underdeveloped, and Kerala is more developed despite having less per capita income than Maharashtra, because it is doing well on other parameters. Now we will discuss this, that why it is happening. So as we saw that the table illustrates that despite Maharashtra having high per capita income, lags behind Kerala in other parameters like infant mortality ratio, literacy rate, net attendance ratio. Now the question which arises is how Maharashtra, despite having higher per capita income, lags behind Kerala in these areas. So first of all, we will consider the public facilities which are provided by the respective governments. So the first of all, the reason is the money which is in your pocket, it can't buy all the goods and services that you may need to live well. So income is not the complete or adequate indicator of material goods and services that citizens are able to use. For example, money cannot buy pollution-free environment. For this, a effort from the government is required. Unadulterated medicine. For that also, the government has to ensure that. Community effort should be required to take preventive steps against infectious diseases. So these are things which are done at a community level or collective level. So due to the more collective level which is adopted in Kerala, it surges ahead of Maharashtra. So for many important things, we can see that the cheapest way to provide the goods and services collectively, Kerala has a low IMR or the infant mortality ratio because it has adequate provision of basic health and educational facilities. The government has opened government schools in almost every areas. So the access to education is better in Kerala than in Maharashtra. Similarly, goods can be provided in Kerala more easily because the public distribution function. Now what is public distribution system? Public distribution system is a system by which the government, it distributes the basic minimum requirements like the food grains and all to the people directly via ration cards. So public distribution system functions well in Kerala. So this is one of the indicator. So it also helps in improving the health and nutritional status of the people. So we can see that this is one of the criteria that is helping Kerala to become a developed state, better than Maharashtra. Now what is Human Development Report? Human Development Report was published from World Bank since the year 2015. According to the Human Development Report, it also publishes a very important data, that is HDI, Human Development Index, which we will discuss later. So this is published by UNDP. It is an organization of UNO, and it compares the countries of the world on the basis of one, educational level, two, health status, and third, per capita income, to give a more clear picture of development, because one criteria is not enough. So it takes three indicators. Now this report clearly indicates that alongside income, other factors are equally important. It has given weightage to educational level and health status as well. Now let us look at Human Development Index. What is Human Development Index? Human Development Index means it is an indicator, it is a report which is an average of life expectancy at birth, total per capita income, and educational level. These three things combine and an average are taken. As the time has passed over the years, many more criteria have been added to make it more encompassing and to make it more clear. Now, if we also see that SDI ranks 188 countries of the world, and it was developed by whom? Mehbubul Haq of Pakistan and Amartya Sen of India. Let us take a look at the neighboring countries of India and India as the rank of SDI in the year 2014. So the gross national income of per capita 2014 in dollar terms in the year 2014 for Indian subcontinent was highest in Sri Lanka, that is 9,779 in dollars per annum. In India it was $5,497 per annum in 2014. In Myanmar it was 4,608. In Pakistan it was 4,866. In Nepal it was 2,311, and in Bengal it was 3,191. So we can see that Nepal was at the bottom of all in terms of gross national income per capita 2014. And this PPP, this stands for purchasing power parity, means with $1 what are the things which you can purchase in different countries. Like if in $1 if inflation ratio is high, means if a bread costs 20 rupees in Kerala and it costs 30 rupees in Uttar Pradesh, means the inflation rate is high in Uttar Pradesh. So with $1 you will be unable to buy the same amount of things in Uttar Pradesh as you can buy in Kerala. So that is purchasing power parity. So this adjusts the purchasing power parity. This table adjusts. Now the second parameter which is taken into consideration is life expectancy at birth, and it is taken at 2014 years. Now in that also Sri Lanka is the leader. Sri Lanka is 74.9 life expectancy, and here second is Bangladesh with 71.6, third is Nepal 69.6, then comes India with 68, then comes Pakistan with 66.2, then comes Myanmar with 5.9. Now the literacy rate for 15 plus year population 2005 to 2013. This data was taken by during the duration of 2005 to 2013. According to it, the literacy rate in Sri Lanka was 91.2 and Myanmar was 92.6. See, in this India was lagging far behind on the third position in 62.8 literacy ratio. Now Pakistan 54.7, Nepal 57.4 and Bangladesh was 58.8. SDI rank in the world. Now according to 2014, the SDI rank in the world of Sri Lanka was 73rd. India came a distance behind with 130, Myanmar with 148, Pakistan with 147, Nepal with 145 and Bangladesh with 142. So we can see that Sri Lanka, in spite of being a very small country with limited resources, is doing very well in terms of SDI according to the Human Development Report of 2014. This data is given by the Human Development Report of 2014. Another data to compare the health status or nutritional status of any person is body mass index, BMI. It is the first and the foremost tool to measure undernourishment or the nourishment level of any person. For that, we should have to take the weight of that person. Then we should calculate the height of that person. Now take the square of that height. For example, if it is 1.1, then the square will be 1.21. 1.1 meter, take it as square 1.21. Divide the weight of the person by the square of the height. Now if it is less than 18.5, then the person is undernourished. If the result comes more than 25, the person is overweight or obese. So for obese or a healthy person, the BMI should be greater than 19 and less than 24. That is very important. The last thing is sustainable development. Sustainable development means the development should be done in such a way that it should be maintained for future generations also, because we didn't get the resources from our forefathers. We have not inherited these resources, the natural resources, from our forefathers. So if we have not inherited, we have to pass out to our future generations also. So this type of development is called sustainable development, and it is obviously desirable also. In the second half of the 20th century, a number of scientists have been warning that the present type of development is not sustainable, but less countries have paid heed to it. Now, first of all, there are two types of resources which exist. First are renewable resources and second are non-renewable resources. First of all, we take a look at renewable resources. Groundwater level. Now, groundwater is a renewable resource because we use it, but in every year during the rainy season, this groundwater gets replenished and this stock of groundwater remains intact. But what is happening in India? This groundwater is also getting exhausted. It is very grave condition in India. It is in a very, very grave situation in India. The evidences in India, they suggest that the groundwater is under serious threat of overuse. So if it is in a serious threat of overuse in many parts of country, in about 300 districts of our country, the water level has declined over 4 meters during the last 20 years. Nearly 1/3 of the country is overusing its groundwater reserves. In another 25 years, 60% of the country would be doing the same if the present way of using the resource continues. Groundwater overuse is particularly found in the agricultural prosperous regions of Punjab, Western UP and Haryana, and the hard rock plateau areas of Central and South India, and some coastal areas that are rapidly growing down with urban settlements like in Kerala and in Andhra Pradesh. So these things are very, very important and need to be addressed too, because if groundwater will not be available, a very, very serious situation will arise, as we have seen that in Chennai, that water for drinking was not available for 2 to 3 days. So these type of situations may arise in future in many parts of the country. So for the future generations, we have to ensure that this does not happen. Now, what are non-renewable resources? Non-renewable resources are those resources which can't be renewed, which will get exhausted after their use. They don't get replenished at the same rate which they are being used. For example, crude oil reserves, natural gas, these two are foremost example of non-renewable resources. according to BP Statistical Review of World Energy, it suggests the present ways the Middle East countries, means Iran, Iraq, Saudi, and these countries, the way they are using their oil reserves, the years in which these oil reserves will last is 78.1. After 78.1 years, there will be no oil left in Middle East. In the United States of America, this situation is even grave. This reserves will last for 12.1 years, while for the average data for the world is 53.3 years. Now, this data was given for 2013. Now, we can minus 7 from all these years. So, you can calculate it that the situation is very, very grave. And now, the final thing is environmental degradation. This is a very, very serious problem, environmental degradation, and everybody is witnessing it. We are cutting trees like anything. We are felling the trees for establishing new industries, new cities. But in the coming year, we will pay very, very high prices for that. We don't respect our national or state boundaries. This issue is no longer regional or national specific. Our future is linked together. Sustainability of development is comparatively a new area. The economists, philosophers, and other social scientists will have to work together to solve it. So, we can see that in general, the question of development or progress is perennial. At all times, as a member of society and as individuals, we need to ask where we want to go, what we wish to become, and what our goals are. So, with this chapter ends here. Now, friends, we will meet again with another chapter of economics. Till then, thank you.